Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
The Cowboys needed a good showing on Thursday Night Football. They got to win. Also, we look at a few of the marquee matchups for Sunday, and Lamar Jackson must win on Sunday night. It's a football Friday. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time.
I'm Peter Bukowski, starting your day with the can't-miss stories and biggest debates in sports. You're Locked On Sports Today.
Searching all major sports. Found.
Let's start with the biggest story.
The sky is not quite falling in Dallas. The Cowboys got a 20-15 win over the New York Giants on Thursday night. Was it the most inspiring performance that Landon McCool from Locked On Cowboys has ever seen? I'll answer this first one, Landon. Probably not. But is this a game where you just go, okay, divisional game, they won, cool, let's just move on? Or are you a little more concerned that this was not more convincing?
Well, first, I'd like to dispute the idea that we're out of the clear of the sky is falling, because right now we still are waiting results on Micah Parsons' ankle X-rays, which could, very much hasten the falling of the sky. So, yes, I do. I think tentatively, I'm ready to say, unless absolute disaster strikes here in the news of medical realm. I think the Cowboys at least, staved the demons off another week. This was a tough win. I mean, look, the Cowboys played on the shortest turnaround that they've ever had in, I'm pretty sure, the history of the Cowboys. They played a Sunday game and then had to go on the road for a Thursday night game in New York so basically 3 days. And so after losing two games, my podcast partner, Marcus Mosier, and I were discussing what does this look like if the Cowboys lose? And I don't know that I have seen the environment that Dallas would have devolved into if the Cowboys had lost this game now 3 games in a row, just considering all the elements involved.
And the Micah Parsons piece is wrapped into what comes next here, because the schedule is brutal. And I know you've seen it. Steelers, Lions, 49ers, Falcons, Eagles, Texans coming up here. And suddenly that Commanders game doesn't look so easy. Jaden Daniels can light up the scoreboard. So where are you right now in terms of your confidence level that this team can at least get going in the right direction, understanding, hey, new defensive coordinator, that was going to take some time. The offense still finding its legs here with a group of running backs that might need you, me, and Marcus to be in the backfield here soon. How confident are you that they can get this rolling?
Well, I think they did find some stuff that does make me confident, a lot more confident than I felt before the game, to kind of step into the future. I think the defense was great against the run, which was a huge step against what we've seen previously, obviously. I thought the defense overall was mostly fine, considering the fact that they lost both DeMarcus Lawrence and Micah Parsons. Already were missing, Bland, and then lost their rookie corner who was the starter, and then basically pulled the guy that was his backup and put in another undrafted free agent guy in the defensive backfield. So I thought the defense played much better. I feel better about that situation. Mozzie Smith, who specifically was being circled as a guy that's been a disappointment and kind of the poster boy for the problems of the Cowboys' run defense, played an absolutely crazy game tonight. And then on offense, look, I think they figured out some of the running back stuff, which is stop giving Deuce Vaughn the ball and stop giving Zeke the ball until later in the game when he needs it. Rico Dowdle and Hunter Lipke need to be the kind of featured people in this backfield until and if they get somebody else. But those are the two guys who seemingly are the ones who are making plays for the Cowboys, or at least consistently running the ball. Will that continue beyond this week? I think as a Cowboys fan, we just survived this game, and we're going to see how the next 10 days treats us. But I think at least the positive thing is that they seem to have come out of this trending upwards.
I'm not sure if you just named 2 Cowboys running backs or 2 quarterbacks in the ACC, but I can't be sure about that one. So, Okay.
Don't be down on Hunter Lipke. He's my guy. And if you guys if you haven't on the Lipke trade yet, go get your number 40 Cowboys jerseys ready. Because
I was on the Hunter Lipke train in the pre-draft process. He was someone I thought was perfect for a Matt LaFleur offense. So you are preaching to the converted.
Okay, good.
When it comes to Hunter, but they do have this stretch coming up.
Yeah.
What is realistic here over the next, let's say, 6 games with what is a pretty daunting slate?
Yeah, I mean it's been a daunting slate already. They faced already a buzzsaw, and they're just looking at more buzzsaws in the near future. I think, look, for the Cowboys, they're a very young team, and they've got a lot of young players in very key positions, including left tackle. Their left tackle took a lot of lumps tonight, and center. And I think that those and the guys like Mozzie and Overshown, who are not rookies but haven't played a ton of football and are starting to play more football and kind of come into their own. So I think that the spots where the Cowboys are still having issues are filled with young players with talent. And so all you can hope is that they develop fast enough to kind of, be up for the challenge that they face. Look, they play Pittsburgh in 10 days, probably the best defensive line in football. It's going to be another measuring stick game for what is a very young offensive line.
Stay up to date on the Dallas Cowboys all year long by subscribing to Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Cowboys on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. Thanks for making Locked On Sports Today your first listen. Coming up, we jump around the league for some of the big Sunday games. Before we get to that, the A's played their final game at the Coliseum. Game Time makes getting to the ballpark even faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to first pitch. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, and their best price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. They're obsessed with finding ways to help you save money on tickets. Game Time has deals on tickets right up to the start of the event and even an hour after it starts. It's the place to find last-minute seats. Find exclusive flash deals and sponsored deals on tickets for football, basketball, baseball, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. And the Game Time guarantee means you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the free app, and new users can get $20 off their first purchase with code Locked On. Terms apply. That's code Locked On for $20 off your first purchase with Game Time. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, the lowest price guaranteed. Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? Have to turn down the volume with all that shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't miss analysis, opinions, and news streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. 56 years. That's how long the A's have played baseball in Oakland. That is the extent of their tenure by the Bay. Should their current plan to move to Sacramento and then to Las Vegas succeed, the final game at the Coliseum saw 46,889 in attendance. Our own Locked On Major League Baseball host Sully was among those in the stands.
Hey, it's Sully. I'm at the last ever Oakland A's game played here at the Coliseum. I have to say, this game was everything I wanted it to be, in that it was a good game, it was a well-played game, it wasn't sloppy, both teams did their best. But most of all, the entire day was a celebration of the A's and their amazing history, and their quirky history, and their hard-to-define history, and a history that is difficult to put a finger on if you weren't here. The championships, the strange personality of this team, and they're going to be gone. And the amazing thing is the game's been over for about 20, 30 minutes, and not a lot of people have left, because they know if they do, they're gone for good.
Former MVP Derrick Rose is retiring. He'll always have 2010, a Chicago Bull for 7 years. Rose won the MVP after his performance for the 10-11 season. He played 81 games that year and never played more than 66 games in any season after that. Chicago saw the best years of Rose. He won the Rookie of the Year, and he made 3 All-Star teams in his first 4 seasons. Rose spoke with ESPN about his retirement and said, "Basketball was just the beginning for me. Now it's important that I give my all to my family. They deserve that. Detroit Lions center Frank Ragnow has been ruled out of Monday night's game against the Seattle Seahawks after suffering a partially torn pectoral muscle. This according to Dan Campbell. Ragnow was injured during Sunday's win over the Arizona Cardinals. Initially, he wasn't ruled out of the upcoming game, but Campbell says they won't risk further damage, especially this early in the season. And after holding what at one time was a double-digit lead in the AL West, the Seattle Mariners were eliminated from playoff contention on Thursday. Both the Kansas City Royals and Detroit Tigers eliminated the Mariners when they each recorded wins. Since June 18th, when they led the division by 10 games, the Mariners have gone 38-46. They fired managers and assistant coaches during that time, and it still wasn't enough. We've got a couple of marquee games this week, starting with the big NFC South matchup between the Falcons and the Saints.
Yeah, I think my biggest thing is find a way to run the football. And a good way to do that is to get Taysom Hill involved a bunch. Taysom has been the kind of Falcons kryptonite and everything at times. He should be back and healthy. So I think that he has to play a big role in getting that run game going. They're going to have to you're going to have to get after Kirk Cousins with the pass rush as well. Keep him uncomfortable, keep him making some bad decisions or force him into making some bad decisions if they can. And then lastly, number 3 for me is generate explosive plays on offense, while of course limiting them on defense. New Orleans has done a good job of both of those things. In some cases, when they haven't, that's when they've lost.
Yeah, for me, the Falcons, it's the first thing is someone's got to control the line of scrimmage in this game, and hopefully it's the Atlanta Falcons that do that on either side of the ball with establishing a run, stopping the run game, and making one of these teams play in a way left-handed that they don't want to necessarily play. And then the second thing to me is don't be a bozo, referring to Kirk Cousins. Right? Don't turn the ball over. Don't do the bozo stuff that Kirk Cousins, the chaos that Kirk Cousins occasionally has in this matchup. And then the third thing is I want to see if this coaching staff can make the adjustments to get better play in some of these areas of deficiency that we discussed on today's episode.
Meanwhile, the Eagles and Bucks have begun the season 2-1 and face off this Sunday.
I've been holding off on this one, and this is number one through and through. There was a moment last year where Todd Bowles created a paradigm shift in Philadelphia where Jalen Hurts had no answers against the blitz. This year, he's been exceptional, and I think it has to come after that game against Tampa where they blitzed him to death. Number 1, understand the blitz is coming and have all the answers. Number 2, like I mentioned with Jalen Hurts, put a stop to the turnovers. You're the quarterback. Lead by example. When you're good, you're a top 5 quarterback in terms of EPA per drop back. You put this team in a position to succeed week in and week out. You have to go and lead by example. You can't continue to turn the ball over. Number 3, just run the damn ball. It's so easy. You have the best running back in football right now with the best offensive line. Even when the right side of that line went out of that game, it did not miss a beat. And if you're without your top 2 weapons on the outside, you have to play the songs that hit. And it's the Eagles' run game, no matter what. Go down to Tampa and control the clock. It's probably going to be a hot, humid environment right after the hurricane rolls through there. Control the clock. Make that Tampa defense tired. Take care of the football. When we say these 3 keys each week, I'm like, it's so simple. Why don't they just execute these? This seems like an easy thing not to turn the ball over, to have answers against the blitz and to control the clock. But that's why you play it. It's a week in, week out league. We know that. Patrick Mahomes isn't his full self yet. The Bengals are 0-3. Minnesota's 3-0. Who knows anything at this current point in time? You have to be self-aware, know yourself, do the things that work best.
And the Chargers are hoping to be the first team to beat the Chiefs this year.
Well, so that takes me to kind of one of the big matchups for the Chargers that's going to be very important and that's what the backup edge rushers are going to be able to do in Joey Bosa's stead. The Chargers made it a point to add to their edge room in the offseason when they went out and added Bud Dupree to a room that already sported Tuli Tuipulotu, a rookie from USC last year that had a strong season, and obviously Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa. Joey Bosa dealing with a hip injury is probably going to be out. So now it's time to see what Tuli Tuipulotu and Bud Dupree are going to be able to do in his stead against this Kansas City Chiefs offensive line. I think that's going to be a very, very important matchup. And then one other matchup I'm going to throw in there as far in regards to the Chargers offensive line, and that's how the interior is going to be able to do against the savant from the defensive line, from the Kansas City Chiefs. Of course, Chris Ice Cold Jones is who I am referring to. That definitely is a scary matchup. Bradley Bozeman has not done very well in pass protection so far to start the season. He's been a good run blocker. That's kind of what his calling card has always been, but the pass protection has left something to be desired from that particular field. So hopefully he has one of his best games, because he's absolutely going to need it going up against Chris Jones.
Coming up, Lamar Jackson plays a must-win game against the Bills this week. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. I hit on a live bet with the Giants plus 5.5. They lost by only 5. Got them. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. And you can place that bet on some Week 4 lines. The Ravens host the Bills Sunday night, and Lamar Jackson needs a win. As our Locked On NFL hosts discuss here in a minute, the Ravens are favored by just 2.5 in this one. I like the Bills. That's FanDuel.com. Lamar Jackson has the MVP awards, but his team is struggling to begin the 2024 season with the Buffalo Bills and Josh Allen, by the way, the favorite to win the 2024 award at MVP. The Ravens must win this week, as Locked On NFL host Tony Wiggins and Chris Carter discuss.
Lamar Jackson hasn't had much luck and good fortune against Patrick Mahomes, but he could go a long way in easing a lot of people's minds if he plays well against Josh Allen.
Look, I think if you're asking who needs to win more here, it's clearly Lamar Jackson right now. And this is not about trajectory. This is not about MVPs or career stakes and what everyone else is going to try to make this about. This is about the right now that the Ravens are 1-2. And if the Ravens fall to 1-3 and the Steelers on Sunday, earlier that day, they're playing the Indianapolis Colts. So I think that they should be favored a little bit more than 1.5 points against. And the Steelers win that game. The Ravens will be 3 games behind the Pittsburgh Steelers in the AFC North. They can't afford that. The Steelers, their schedule is supposed to get tougher in the second half of the season, but this next month and a half or so of games the Steelers have, this is the part of the season where they're going to try to build their lead. So if you're the Ravens, you have the tougher schedule because you won the division last year. You cannot afford to fall that much far behind. And oh, by the way, in the last 8 games against the Steelers, the Ravens are 1-7. So it's not like this is going to get much easier for Baltimore. They need this win, reset the track. But Lamar Jackson, I mean, he's kind of been that guy that's carried the Ravens offense for years. Josh Allen's doing what I think Lamar Jackson has done for the past several years right now. There's no superstar on the offense anymore outside of Josh Allen. There's no guy that's going to carry like the weapons the way that Stephon Diggs did in his best years with the Bills. And Josh Allen right now, despite that, is the only quarterback with more than 5 touchdown passes to not throw an interception in the NFL. He is 7 right now, the second most in the NFL. He has been on fire. He's been a great decision maker. He started off red hot. I feel like the Bills right now, they have the #1 offense. They're averaging 37 points per game, a little bit over that right now. They have everything in their court right now, and they're in an AFC East that I think that especially with the Dolphins situation right now, they have every reason to be heavily favored. If there's a team that needs something, it's the Ravens right now, and they need a win to keep pace and not fall too much further behind in the AFC North.
Yeah, and the offensive line played better last week against Dallas, and then they almost still blew the game at the end with some crazy management of things. But I agree with you. I think Lamar Jackson needs this win for the right now more than anything else.
The Ravens need to win more, but the Bills are going to win because they're the best team in the NFL right now. Josh Allen, an MVP, and they just find ways to win. The Ravens, meanwhile, find ways to let teams stick around. If you let this Bills team stick around, they will beat you. And that's what will happen on Sunday. And finally, we mentioned yesterday the 50-50 ball from Shohei Ohtani going up for auction, but that story has changed. Max Matus filed suit Thursday in Florida's 11th Judicial Circuit Court seeking a temporary injunction against Golden Auctions, which has scheduled to open bidding on the ball Friday. The lawsuit, which also names Chris Belansky and Kelvin Ramirez, says Belansky wrongfully and forcefully obtained possession of the ball from Matus in the stands, and that Belansky and Ramirez have indicated on social media their plans to sell the ball. I'm looking forward to the 30 for 30 on this story. If you're catching this episode after hearing your favorite Locked On show, make sure to subscribe to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss an episode. Also, if you're a new subscriber to Locked On Sports Today, we're here for you with the biggest stories in sports every day. Coming up on the next Locked On Sports Today, who will be in the biggest playoff hole after week 4 in the NFL? So at least until tomorrow, stay Locked On Sports Today.
Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
Go to our video on demand. Click on sports at the top of your screen. There, you'll find past episodes of Locked On Sports Today, plus other Locked On shows on demand.